City, having fun, I hope.
There we go. It's starting.
Okay, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read I'll quickly read the Wikipedia blurb. There's some interesting little trivia things on there. A lot of it, of course, you already know from watching the movie. Okay, 1971 for all of us. Clockwork Orange, a dystopian crime film adapted, produced, and directed by Kubrick, based on Anthony Burgess's 62 novel, the same name. Employs disturbing, violent images to comment on psychiatry, juvenile delinquency, youth gangs, and other social, political, and economic subjects in a dystopian near future Britain. The central character is a charismatic antisocial delinquent whose interests include classical music, Beethoven, rape, theft, and ultra-violence. He leads a gang of thugs, Pete, Georgie, and Dim. He calls them droogs, which is from the Russian word in their literature, which means friend or buddy. It chronicles the crime spree of his gang, his capture and attempted rehabilitation via experimental psychological conditioning technique, the Ludovico technique, promoted by the Minister of Interior. Alex narrates most of the film in Nadsat, a fractured adolescent slang composed of Slavic languages, especially Russian, English, and Cockney rhyming slang. The film premiered in New York in December 1971. It was released in the United Kingdom in January of 72. It was met with polarized reviews from critics and was controversial due to its depiction of graphic violence, which I didn't think was that graphic. I mean, nothing compared to what we see today. Heads exploding from headshots and, squeezing aortas and all that kind of bullshit. After it was cited as having inspired copycat acts of violence, the film was withdrawn from British cinemas at Kubrick's behest. It was also banned in several other countries. In the years following, the film underwent a critical reevaluation and gained a cult following. It received several awards and nominations, including 4 nominations at the 44th Academy Award, including Best Picture. In the British Film Institute's 1220 Sight and Sound polls of the greatest films, A Clockwork Orange ranks 75th in the director's poll and 235th in the critics poll. In 2020, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. So, where are you guys? What the fuck? Oh, there you are.
All right.
Shit, I can't. Oh, there we go.
Jazz
Hey,
hands.
there, far out. All right, we
But
got a
you lost your
six-pack
droogies.
anyway. So I don't know about you guys, but I had some, particular scenes that really impacted me when I first saw it, and the ones that I, would remember. First of all, the blonde on the stage in the spotlight, that was unforgettable. Which brings up another thing, we got a lot of nudity in this movie. It's like, how often do you see any nudity in movies today? It was like hot. It was like when they were the Nazi gang guys were, fooling with that woman on the stage, all sorts of things like that. So that one, and also he's reading. This really stuck with me when I first saw it. He's reading about the crucifixion and fantasizing about being the Roman centurion or whatever it was, wailing on Jesus as he's carrying his cross. And then, of course, everybody's, remembers the scene behind Sanders there with the, oh, look, Donna's coming with the.
Hi, sorry, I'm late.
Are those Jeff? Are those eye things a thing?
Yeah, I've never used that particular variety, but they look like just normal retractors. They look like they're all smooth and everything. And you would put some topical anesthetic in on the surface of the eye before you put those in, and probably wouldn't be that uncomfortable, really. But they look horrendous.
Oh,
They do.
did you read about, and I'm sorry I'm late, but did you read about that guy that was putting the drops in his eye was an actual physician? And that McDowell did get some sort of infection in his eye because of those.
Really?
And
Yeah.
could have gotten a corneal abrasion too.
It was something, Jeff, I can't remember what they said it was exactly, but it was something not good for your eyes.
Yeah. That guy was kind of obnoxious, just constantly pouring tears into his eyes. But
Yeah.
it gave you the idea that he was open for a long time.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. And they had to do that, I guess, because, they were afraid. But anyway, what a movie. So did you guys like it? I mean, all you guys liked it?
Yeah, Terry's kind of introducing it.
Oh, good. Good. Thanks, Terry. Go ahead.
Well, I just read the Wikipedia thing. I don't know if you caught any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or no? Okay. Well, I was just going over the scenes that stuck with me for 50 years.
Did you not just watch it again?
This is the second time I've watched it in the past 3 weeks, because I had watched it previously and I go, I've got to pick this one. So I watched it again.
Uh-huh.
I like the sets and the costumes and all of that kind of stuff. The very colorful, he uses the primary colors, red, blue, orange. It's very, very colorful, very kind of pop art inspired, I would think.
I like this
kinda-
movie. I like this movie a lot less this time around than the other time I've seen it. The other time I'm sure I've seen it was in the theaters 50 years ago when it was released, and I thought it was damn fine film then. I didn't like it nearly as much this time. Terry, I think your observation about the violence on movies today is so much more intense is interesting, because at the time the violence in Clockwork Orange was very, very vivid for its time, and it came during a time when there were some really violent movies that were coming out, like Bonnie and Clyde, like Straw Dogs, like The Wild Bunch, real violent movies. It's hard to find fault with Kubrick and his execution of this, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the movie as much as I did it the first time I saw it.
I think
Go ahead.
I think that the violence was different in this because they talked so much about it. It was a focus of the activity and the thing. There was the violence, but then there was a commentary about the violence. Whereas today, there's just violence. It just happens. So I thought that was a distinction that was interesting.
And if you noticed, it was very much acted, it was like a play.
Mhm.
It was like a stage play on film, because you could tell that the people weren't really roughing up the girl, and when they're fighting, it's just all seemed kind of like a play. It's there's many movies out there that just seem like a play on film rather than a film or a movie. So,
And the other thing I learned about this film is that that dialect that Alex and his gang use was written and conceived in large part by Anthony Burgess, and several whole passages that Alex repeats in the movie are lines straight out of the book.
I read that about Burgess too, that he was quite widely traveled and went back to Russia and Belarus or somewhere, but he also included that that talk or that lingo from Russian and Slavic languages. And I think in one place it said that he wouldn't tell Kubrick and others what it was. It was just, that's the words. That's what we got to use.
For what it's worth, in Wikipedia, they've got an addendum after you watch or read about the movie, the film, and you look up Clockwork film. And it's got a full glossary for you, everything that was used in the movie and what it really means. So if you ever wondered,
I think
it's all there for you.
I think the book had that too.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Well, I guess I'm going to, you know, I hate to say this but I love Kubrick, but I didn't like this movie back when it first came out because it was so violent and it was so dystopian, so horrible that it actually, I remember at the time being actually sick because of the violence. And then when I watched it again this time, what bothered me about me was that the violence didn't bother me as much as it did back then. Did not. But the way women were depicted in here really bothered me this time, where I don't remember even thinking about that much back then. So it really was an eye-opener for me, and whether I've digressed or whatever, you know, or I don't know, whatever happened. It's such a strange movie. And I love Kubrick. That's the thing. I loved Path of Glory, even 2000, but this one I just could not. And I don't know. I cannot. I love the sets. I love the pop art, but it just, everything about it just kind of hit me the wrong way. Especially with all the women's scenes and the women being furniture and the putting their everything. It really got me, this time. So I didn't like it back then. I still don't like it. I hate to say that. I mean, there's parts of it I like, but the majority. And then, I'm sure you guys know more about this than I do, but I guess there's a missing chapter, right, Terry? There's a missing chapter so the last chapter in the book, as I understand what I've read about it, there's the last chapter in the book kind of, and I'm going to say this, Hollywood endings it, makes it like everything kind of came together and everything got better. So there was an optimistic, and in all the American versions, they cut the last chapter out in the book. And then Kubrick, who never even saw the last chapter, just, did it the way he did it, not even knowing that there was another chapter that kind of made everything better. So I thought that was interesting, and being brought up Catholic, having a condemned. Now, again, I was way beyond, looking at the Legion of Decency, but I do remember that when you had a condemned on a movie, that was like the worst possible thing that that you could possibly have in a movie if you were a Catholic. And I'm sure Catholics never to see it, that were really, those kind of Catholics, fundamentalist Catholics, I guess, so it was interesting.
Yeah, that condemned rating.
Yes.
I remember it well, also. And by that time, I would have been 17, 18 years old. I didn't.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't pay attention to that nearly as much. But it was a big deal, and probably it probably shied a lot of Orthodox mainstream Catholics away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
at
think so.
the time. So, that was a big deal.
The
It did-
film
Yeah.
got an
It
X
feel
rating
very-
from the rating system.
Yes,
at
an X, that's right, an X
the
rating.
beginning.
Well-
And they dropped a scene or two and got it down to an R. I don't know what scenes it was, but
Probably one of the rape
Oh,
scenes.
it get an R rating?
yeah.
No, it got an X rating initially. And then like, Mike said it, they just dropped a couple of scenes and they were able to get it to R.
And it would have been one of
Plus.
the first ones to have a rating, wouldn't it?
Well, it was actually the second. Midnight Cowboy, which also came out in 1971,
Oh, yeah.
got an X and kept
Yeah.
it. And won the Oscar. All the things that Terry said it got nominated for, it was up against Midnight Cowboy. Midnight
Wow.
Cowboy won Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor.
No,
Best
actually,
director.
Gene Hackman
No?
won Best Actor in
Oh, okay.
1971. Yeah, because I just looked that up because the point I was going to make on it is Malcolm McDowell's performance in this thing is just stunning. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about, someone acting
Mhm.
a part, I mean, this movie doesn't happen without his character and the way he portrays it. So I think he should have got the Oscar.
I think you're right there when it comes to, because I really hated him. And there's a part of me that kind of felt sorry for him, and then part of me that everything. It really was a good, an excellent performance. I have to give him that. But the content just was hard for me to take, still hard.
Well, my response to that is I think it's very natural and normal to be repulsed by violence. I mean, that's the bodily reaction, and it's so twisted that the body
Yeah, right.
tells you what's right, and
Tim
so
Whitaker.
why is sex obscene and violence not obscene? It's completely the opposite.
Yeah, you're
And then
right.
as far as the portrayal of women, it's been 50 years of consciousness evolution where this was the end of the 60s, I mean, this is not that, it was a long time ago, and a lot of those things have changed.
But
And it's
not that
it's
much. Yeah.
normal to be, repulsed by this kind of thing. But then you were saying, you hated the character or hated the actor. I don't know. See, a lot of times you have to separate the character, the actor from the character.
Right.
I mean,
The
he's
actor.
acting the character. It's not Malcolm McDowell that you hate. It's
No,
the character.
of course
basically.
not. Of course
Right.
not. I hate
Right.
that character.
Yeah, nobody's saying
Yeah.
that we hate Malcolm McDowell. We're saying
Right.
that he did an astonishing job playing the character.
Playing that character.
He
He
Yes.
really drew you in. I mean, I remember when the first place I heard about the movie or saw anything about it was on Johnny Carson.
Oh,
Malcolm
really?
McDowell was on there being interviewed by Johnny, and they showed the scene fairly early on when they're in the little red convertible and speeding down the street with the phony background. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't even do that anymore. I mean, so it's like I said, it's a stage play.
That
So-
Durango 95, I looked that up too. That was interesting. That is one of only 3 cars like that were built.
Wow.
What happened to Gary? We just lost him.
And it's not a Durango 95. It's actually something else. I can't remember, but that was the name given to it in the movie. I was just going to say I liked it better this time than I did 50 years ago. And I think most of that was because of Malcolm McDowell. I looked up his IMDb, and he's been in a ton of stuff, Entourage and stuff like that. But I really, I thought he did a great job. He wasn't even nominated for an Academy Award. I think he might have been up for a BAFTA or something like that in Britain. But I really thought he carried it really well.
Oh, I have to agree there. Yeah. I guess, I'm so mad I'm kind of mad at myself because I remember being so sick 50 years ago about the violence, and the violence didn't bother me as much this time, which I guess says something either about movies or the movies I've watched or whatever. I'm just used to it now.
I
And
didn't
that,
remember the ending of it. I didn't remember that at the very end he came back to what
yeah,
he
he's back to what he was. And so there's no rehabilitation for juvenile delinquents that are, and another thing I don't buy, but
So in um, deference to the First Amendment, much more violence is allowed on television and movie. I have a little anecdote about Kung Fu. Remember Kung Fu
yes.
for 2 years? David
Mhm.
Carradine?
Yes.
In the pilot, he killed 5 people. It was a 2.5 hour long movie, or 2 hours long movie. He killed 5 people. And they wanted to make it into a series. And they were so strict in those days, they go, one, nobody can be killed in the series, and violence is limited to 2 minutes. 1970, no, 72, 73. So then in, kowtowing to the First Amendment, well, we have every right to show any kind of whatever we want. All of that's changed.
Yeah.
Just so quaint that they would actually limit that. And that's probably one of the reasons you were inured to it this time, is because you've been exposed to 50 years of violence
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
television
Exactly.
screen.
Hmm.
And so the other
Yeah.
issue, the character, you first hated him and then you liked him. Well, that's the main issue of the movie, is that they take away his free will by the Ludovico technique, and he becomes a,
Yeah, it's
slave.
behavior modification. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the whole movie, is sort of, that's the main issue, is like, is it right to do something like that? Or, is it, should we not mess with people's, ability or reason or wanting to do things like that?
You know
Well,
what I missed 50 years ago was that the wrong government took away his right to violence, but the right government gave it back to him. I mean,
yeah.
I don't really think about the political aspects of this movie when I watched it 50 years ago.
Right.
50 years ago, I watched this movie as a young person, a young guy, really, because this was all about guys and their, and how if I would have maybe found myself on a path of violence myself, these kind of things, they might do this to me, that's where we were then, right? I mean, we were just not much younger than Malcolm McDowell, the Malcolm McDowell character, Alex.
Yeah.
And I thought nothing of the political overtones that I saw this time, that it was all about politics and the ability of our government to
Yeah.
take it away.
Well, McDowell's character, Alex DeLarge, is supposed to be 17.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we were 18 in 71.
Yeah.
So he was
Yeah.
still in high school.
I think that the book must have been really the movie coming out must have been really well known, because I can remember just inhaling the book and then going to see the movie 6 months later or something like that. So it was, I mean, there was a lot of buzz around it for sure.
So what's
you
Mr.
think-
Whitaker have to say about all this?
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to be here, Terry, so I apologize. I did not rewatch it. I apologize.
Well, what do you remember? What do you remember from the past?
Well, what I'm now I want to watch it based on what Bill said, where the wrong government took away freedoms, the right government gave him back the freedom for violence. I don't remember. I wasn't aware of political friction in it.
Right.
I just remember it was very violent, and it seems like it had a very compelling soundtrack, is what I remember. But maybe I've got that. Some other movie.
Beethoven. How can you go wrong? You know,
Yeah.
Beethoven, mostly.
Beethoven and Singing in the Rain.
Gene Kelly, yeah. How can you go wrong with
Yeah.
Gene Kelly?
Yeah.
And I want to marry a lighthouse keeper and live by the
Yeah.
I like that song, and I noticed that when it was when he came home, walking into the gold walls, and what about that apartment that his parents lived in? The way his mother dressed.
I
It
know.
was strictly
Oh my God.
Carnaby Street all the way. It
Yeah.
was weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Rick
like
Blunt. Yeah.
And him being replaced by the
Joe.
by Joe.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They like Joe.
The other thing I read was that when they were rehearsing the beatdown scene in the home for the first time, when Alex is singing in the rain, McDowell was actually doing that during rehearsals, and they went, "Yeah, let's throw that in." I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah. Oh.
So, I mean, it's a little confusing where the title came from, and I'm not sure I know either. I just read it's like a Cockney expression or something like that. Does anybody know?
Yeah, I didn't get around to
Yeah,
researching
I don't know. I read somewhere that it was a Clockwork Orange was like on the outside it was, organic, but inside it was just a machine. I don't know.
that. Ah,
Yeah, same description.
Yeah.
that sounds logical.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does.
It never came up in the movie.
No, no,
It wasn't like a little tagline somewhere.
no.
I know all of
Anybody
us.
remember? Go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say, all of us coming of age, it was a must-see movie. I wonder how it did.
Good.
Box office. I missed that. Sorry.
It was like I just saw it was like $1.5 million to make, and it made like 115 million.
Yeah, he was very, very successful.
Very successful, yeah.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, what I remember about the soundtrack is on, obviously Beethoven's Ninth, which until that movie, I associated it with it was the theme for the NBC nightly newscast with Huntley and Brinkley. They used Beethoven's Ninth as their theme music.
Oh boy, I didn't remember. Wow. I didn't remember. I don't
I didn't remember that at all.
No, I didn't
They
either.
just had a 75th anniversary of all those newscasters in that channel, and Huntley and Brinkley were featured in there, and they played that theme song and so forth. It's quite interesting to look back on all the different people who were in that lineage of newscasters.
Right. Right.
I was interested. For some reason, I remembered a movie that Malcolm McDowell made 3 years before this called If, which was also kind of a rebellious thing where he was like a school kid. Let's see. Revolution led by Mick Travis takes place in an old established private school in England. Beatings of the teachers, silliness of the games they were forced to play, et cetera, et cetera. So that was kind of he was in that mode before he made this movie. And I had almost forgotten that, but for some reason that movie also stuck in my mind. It doesn't have the magnitude of Clockwork Orange, but I also was thinking that operant conditioning, which this talks a lot about, the whole sort of behavioral modification was not that old. Pavlov was not a long time before all this stuff happened. I remember the teachers in psychology at Mizzou were talking about all this stuff and how you could cause the dog to salivate by doing certain things. And I think that this was a kind of a popular topic right at the time when this came out, and just a kind of a warning of how dangerous this kind of stuff can be if it's in the wrong hands. But then weird juxtaposition of the governments and the agendas, and then the violence on top of that. I thought it was very creative and very thought provoking. So, how much latitude do we give the government to legislate morality or decency, and then at the same time, like the First Amendment, we let her rip. So it's very
Right.
it's kind of a dichotomy that's existing here.
And remember, the ending is that the guy whose wife was killed and raped in front of him, it ends up being a paraplegic. He ends up going to prison, and so that the guy that did it is safe. It's just quite a film. It is quite a film.
Let me introduce an idea that government may not be in control of this anymore, but big tech companies might be calling the shots. If you think about, I read or saw something the other day about the war in Ukraine. If certain tech companies decided to shut down access to information, it wouldn't be a government that was making that action. It would be a Twitter or a Google, and the power may be in the hands of half a dozen billionaires.
Yeah.
To governments who are, and the new governments may not be elected. They may be there because they've accumulated all the power to access people via social media or digital media.
Well, that was sort of a related theme to Ted Bundy, who just died. I mean, he had a great deal of contempt for technology in general. He saw just nothing but problems with it, and he carried it obviously to an extreme. But that's where he was at on it.
No, not Ted Bundy. Ted Kaczynski.
Kaczynski. That's
right.
what I was thinking. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like, Bundy, really?
And he had hamburgers.
It was way. Yes.
Yeah, there's another one right there.
It made me
what?
think about
Al Bundy.
aversion therapy in general. And lately, that's been a province of the right-wing Christian people.
Well, absolutely.
I think I might, what was it? Michelle Bachmann's husband went through aversion therapy because he really was gay, but he wanted to get gayed away.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Pray away
work.
the gay. Yeah.
Right, pray away the gay. It doesn't work. And this was not connected in any way, but it just seemed like somehow Kubrick, predicted some things like that in the future.
It's a dangerous
Still
weapon.
doing it here in
Right.
Florida.
Well, the pray away the gay thing worked for me.
Yeah, but there was a relapse or two, if I remember.
That's marvelous.
One other little thing that I thought about watching it was kind of like a reverse Christmas Carol. It starts off and all the terrible things happen, and then he gets that event, and he comes back, and first he runs across his buddies, and they're cops now, and then he crawls up to the house where the people lived, and they just recycles through everybody, and anyway, it's just
the
that's
bum.
funny.
He runs into the bum, and then the bum gets his buddies to
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very insightful, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much his buddies as the people he beat up on the stage that were trying to rape that girl, but
Yeah.
it was the other droogies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
no, it was fun to see it again.
What in the
really-
world is there? Some real purpose for those cod pieces in their outfits?
Well,
Jesus,
I wouldn't
what
know,
in the
but
world?
it was so silly. Yes.
When
But
they
of
got the
course,
ball, they stuffed in their
Madonna,
mouth and then scotch taped around their head, wasn't it?
yeah. Oh, it's just, well, Madonna wore the bra outside her clothes. So I guess he can wear a codpiece outside of, you know, on his clothing as well.
Well, London by that time was exceedingly tough, I guess, and so they were wearing double cups. Double cups.
There are some
Double
weird little
D's.
juxtapositions too, and there's a scene where he cut the front of the woman's shirt off and just exposed her breasts. And then when he went to visit the woman who was like the athletic trainer that had the funny sort of dildo device, on the
Yeah.
back wall, there was a picture of somebody with an outfit like that.
Cut out.
It was, yeah, cut out in the same way. I
Yeah.
thought,
Mhm.
Oh, really?
what's going on here?
I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
it's almost like it was a style.
Yeah.
It's one of her big format art pieces on the wall.
Yeah.
God, no, yeah, I don't remember that. Huh.
The
Interesting.
yoga
That
lady.
was kind of a funny scene in a lot of
It
ways
was. Oh
until
gosh, it
until
was.
the end. Just
Yeah.
chasing her around with that thing, and
She
it
finally
ended.
backed him, and then he did her in.
Yeah.
yeah,
But when you talk about the First Amendment, but what about schizophrenic drugs? I mean, with people with schizophrenia, of course, I assume that they have the choice to take the drug or not the drug, but it's kind of behavior modification, done in a much nicer way. But, wouldn't you say?
I'll bet you
Okay.
there are inmates that will dispute whether or not they have a choice.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're
Right.
probably right. But at the same time, if the public is at risk, what do you do? Do you allow this person?
It's like
I mean,
one flew
I
over the
actually,
cuckoo's nest.
exactly. We're going
yeah,
to
well,
teaching now.
exactly, cuckoo's nest.
Yeah.
But I did have a person that I knew very, very briefly, but same our age, when he was about 20, big guy, football player, got hit playing football. And from that point on, just became a nut and violent all the time. And everybody was afraid of him. And and they would have to call police, and the police, it would be like 5 or 6 cops that would have to try to hold him down. That's how big and strong he was. And then they got to kind of had to put him away. And then he started taking meds. And once he started taking meds for schizophrenia, that's what they said he had, schizophrenia. And it was after an injury, which I thought I didn't realize it could come on like that, but supposedly. And again, this is old. I don't know if that was actually true or not, but he did. And calm down. I mean, people still didn't trust him or didn't want him around and didn't want him around their children or any of that. But he calmed way, way down and was able to function in society. And I don't believe he worked, but he was, out in the world. So again, I don't know. I don't want to take away people's free will. And at the same time, I don't want people to be hurt because someone's will is to kill everybody they see in sight, or
Well,
rape them.
that's the conundrum of
Yeah.
law, and that's the we find ourselves as individuals. We are a
Of a
whole
whole.
part as a human being, but we are also, that part is of the human race.
Right.
So you're both. You're never going to just get to be totally an individual, nor are you ever going to be just totally an ant. We're
Yeah.
not really built like that. So that's the whole thing. How far do you let people go? I mean, how far does freedom go? And,
Yeah.
there have been various ways of dealing with that through the ages. So it's always been a question, and basically, why would you let a mad dog loose, and not put it
Right.
down, whether chemically or behind bars or, the ultimate.
Or
So,
behavior modification.
yeah, exactly.
There's the mad dog.
I was gonna say, wait,
I can hear him.
cue the dog.
So on that issue, I've heard of 2 instances where a community decided to get rid of someone.
Oh, yes. There was a movie, wasn't there,
Well,
Terry?
The
I
one
don't
in
know if
Northwest
it was-
Missouri. Tiny,
Skidmore. Yeah.
tiny.
Yes,
Yeah.
that sounds familiar. Yes.
In broad daylight, it was called.
Yeah, and nobody saw anything.
Right.
Yes.
So the
Yeah,
community
that-
just gets together and says, hey, we're just going to get rid of this guy, and nobody's going to say a word to anybody ever again about it.
Mhm.
And if you do, you will be the one that's killed. Or something like that.
Yeah.
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 It happened in a
A
town in
conspiracy
Colorado.
of silence.
And the same thing happened down in Big Sur. Some creepy crawler guy was going around looking in women's windows and terrorizing and stuff like that. And, the people in the area just decided, look, we're just going to get rid of this guy. So,
Took
no
him to the
one
train
had-
station.
the what?
They took him to the train station. The bus, whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like my grandmother's second husband. Her male relatives really didn't like the guy, so they took him to the train station. That was the last he was seen.
So
Yeah, oh.
that's the situation we find ourselves in.
Did we talk about that it was banned in the United States, this film?
It didn't say that in the Wikipedia blurb.
Oh, I don't think it was banned. It
Uh,
was just,
It
it
said it
was
was banned in several
X-rated.
countries, but it didn't
Yeah.
mention us.
Yeah,
No.
I think Kubrick took it out of distribution for a while, and I think it
Oh,
happened-
yes, yes. I think
and-
you're right,
and I
Mike.
think that
Yeah.
was in Britain. I don't think it was here in the States.
Yeah, you're right. He did take it out of Britain because Britain
Well,
was
because-
getting so violent and people were saying they were doing it because of the film.
Yeah, copycat.
Yeah,
Copycat
copycat,
violence.
right. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And do you think that we were having violence was this like the movie was made or the book was written in response to violence in our societies in the 60s?
No, because the book came out in 1962, which was before the 60s, as it's generally accepted, and there was the most, I guess, one of the most notorious crimes of the 50s was the clutter killings in Kansas, and then there was a doctor by the name of Shepard that
Oh, yeah,
supposedly killed his wife in Ohio or something like that.
right.
Those were high profile cases. But no, I think this was just supposed to be Burgess's description of a society where free will gets endangered in a dystopian society.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall, but the same motivation for the what was the killings in cold blood killings? What was that? What was that?
Clutter.
family?
Yeah.
Clutter.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
it
was
was-
the same motivation. Remember, they're going, oh yeah, there's jewels and there's gold and the house is full of, there's all the da. That's why they went into the place where the woman got murdered. That's why he was there. They thought
True.
it was like full
Right.
of money, which is the exact same motivation that the guys had in Kansas. The criminal mind sometimes, these guys are just like, oh my, I just like, really?
That
You guys
or
that?
or his
No.
his allies, his compatriots, talked him into that, knowing that they were going to stomp him when he was coming out.
Oh, okay. Stop him with all the loot or something?
Yeah,
No,
stomp him,
Stomp him.
not stop him.
They were
Stomp.
they were gonna drop Alex,
Ah,
hit him with the
I see.
milk bottle, and that's when the cops caught him.
I
That's
see.
the one intervening thing, is that the cat lady called the cops before they broke in and put them
Right.
on the road to her house.
That's,
I mean-
yeah, right.
That was kind of beyond foreshadowing. I mean, you knew it was going to happen.
And then what's he get? 16 years for murder?
14, yeah.
14? It's like, I have an issue with the no death penalty thing personally, especially if someone is 100% guilty.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to get on that stuff right now. Yeah, if there's any sort of circumstantial convictions, like so many guys got off because of DNA testing, they did not do it, and they'd been in prison for their whole life.
Right.
Some person walks in, like one of these mass shootings, 50 people saw the person do it. I don't see why that person should continue to live. I mean, I don't care if they're emotionally disturbed or crazy.
Kind of like Emmett
Get
Till.
rid of them.
Huh?
What?
Kind of like Emmett Till.
I'm not sure what that is.
No. Emmett Till. No, it's a whole
Well,
different
Donald
ballgame
Trump, who can assume that he was innocent? You know, you're supposed to assume that he's innocent until proven guilty.
there. Yeah,
He's
I
been
know.
talking about his insurrection for 2 years, you know,
yeah.
and we used to hang people for that. So I'm glad we still have death penalty. for
Sometimes without a trial.
insurrection.
Yeah.
On the nearest tree and a horse. Yeah.
They didn't mess around with John Wilkes Booth either.
No. And the 8
Ordered up
others.
in a garage and in a barn and just did away with him right then and there.
But then Dr. Mudd went on to save
Yeah.
many people in prison.
Yeah. But then they hung what, 8 people for that? And one of
Yeah,
them was that woman.
What, including Mudd, who was innocent.
Right. And so she was just
Well, he was, by association, he fixed his leg.
Yeah, but he had no idea that he was fixing
Yeah.
when
he's a doctor. Yeah.
when he fixed Booth's leg, he had no idea that he was just on the run from murder.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Doctors should, in my opinion, they should heal the sick. It doesn't matter if doesn't matter what the person is doing. Same with, of course, I won't get on the abortion issue, but I think it just should be, I will, between a woman and her doctor. That's it. Forget the government. They should be out of it completely. And let a woman and her doctor decide what is best for her. Like every doctor, he just does the best for his client, his patient.
8 minutes.
Yeah, you guys got the email for next week?
Oh yeah, Spirited Away. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Oh, what?
Right.
It looks like to me it's on Max and Prime with subscription.
Okay.
Okay.
Spirited Away from Whitaker.
Whitaker picks a Japanese animated movie.
Yeah.
Released by Disney.
Yeah.
He's
And
got
it's in
20
English. You don't
grandkids.
need subtitles.
Is this a grandkid movie? Grandkids?
I think
I
it's,
don't know.
I looked up the MPAA and I've forgotten it. I think it's a G though.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you can watch it with Lila or whatever you want to do.
God, to go from Clockwork Orange to Spirited Away. Oh my God, can we get any further difference?
It demonstrates
Yeah.
our latitude.
I know, that's so good.
That's a lot of latitude.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about it next week when Whitaker is available, right? Or is he not?
Right.
Right,
He is.
right. He'll be available. Yeah.
Who picks then?
Well,
Bill
it starts in
Barnard.
A, right?
Oh, it does.
It would be me. I mean, it would be Jeff if we thought he was going to be here.
Yeah, he probably won't.
So I'll be ready.
Okay, Bill.
But
There is something that I want to recommend, but I think you guys have already recommended it. I just happened to see it. Black Mirror.
yeah,
And some-
I've been watching it.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. And
Last
the
season,
thing
you
I
mean?
love, love the most is that they're all self-contained. You get the beginning, middle, and end in 1 hour or whatever, however long they take. But I loved them all. I mean, everyone was, some were better than others, but every one of them I thought were really, really good. Who recommended those?
Oh, I don't know.
Was it
It-
you, Bill?
I mean, I've been watching them from the beginning. They've been pretty good.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
talking about
yes.
the new season, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Where
much
is it?
AI in it. It's so good.
Black Mirror is on what? Netflix?
Netflix.
Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching the last couple of nights to the new season.
And it goes back to like what, 2018, 2017?
Yeah.
It's been around.
Probably.
It went into hiatus for a while, but it's been around for a while.
See, I didn't even know. And I remember someone, and I just happened to come across it, and I was just amazed at how good they were, even especially the whole idea, especially with AI being in the in our reality now. Though that was really interesting with the fakes and all that. I just thought it was really good. Even the one in the Star Trek one, but I was a Trekkie, so
I'm just throwing this out there because 2 weeks is July the 3rd. The 4th obviously is on Tuesday. But for the working people, who is Jeff and Pete.
Yeah, P works.
Yeah. So is that a conflict? I mean, if you're going to have a long weekend
I think we should take it off.
yeah, probably.
That's always been the kind of
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
that's good with me.
I also brought up that, today is really a national holiday, and we did
Right.
this
Yeah.
last year. We kinda-
What national holiday?
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
What the fuck is that?
You know exactly what it
Juneteenth, what the
is.
fuck? What happened on Juneteenth?
Are you kidding me?
You're
Well,
not
you
kidding.
I'm not kidding. What is it? What does it mean?
Oh my gosh.
Juneteenth.
Okay.
Juneteenth this is the 3rd year in a row that has been recognized as a national federal holiday, but it has been a holiday observed by Blacks in America for a long time, sometimes back to the 19th century, when the last of the slaves in Texas were made aware of the Emancipation Proclamation, and that was that was after the end of the Civil War in June of 1865,
right.
where they were the last of the slaves were made aware of the fact that slavery had been abolished.
Yeah. So it's
Well,
kind of like it's the July 4th for the African American community.
No, I think that's a good explanation of it, but I'm like Terry. It's like I was thinking the same thing earlier today. I was like, what?
Really?
Where's my mail?
What is Juneteenth? Yeah, but I mean, and I was also thinking how it may evolve in the future. Maybe even way past when we're around. But what kind of national holiday will it be in the future too? But even all that aside, I think we should take it off.
Well, that's fine. I just had a huge hole in my education. This is the first I've ever heard of it was today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's going to go. It's either going to grow a lot, I think.
I think so too.
Or it's going to become a minor federal holiday back like Columbus Day and President's Day. It's going to be one or the other. It's not.
See, I think that if July 4th and Juneteenth kind of got together, it would be symbolic of actually having, freedom for everyone in the States. So I wish it was kind of like the end of June and the beginning, somehow they connect. I think that would be just kind of a way that all of us are now free, not just the white people,
Emancipation Day.
Yeah, that's
wrong
good.
with
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
You could
So-
roll in women's emancipation.
Well, yeah, that's yeah.
black emancipation,
We'd have to
all
move
sorts
the
of other
date,
things.
which would really upset people.
What's what?
We'd have to choose one date that they would all occur on. That would really upset people, I think.
You'd
Well,
Well, that's
just-
true. We want to have all these days off. That's right.
Well, we'll just roll the dice or
Feel like-
throw a dart at a
feel like-
calendar or something, you
Wouldn't
know?
be like
Feel
Frank.
like Europe.
Leave it up to chance, so there's no complaining.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to throw out something that I hope doesn't seem too sacrilegious, because I'm thinking about doing this. This is just a little bit of a forewarning.
Oh, boy. So I
Okay,
turn
we of the television generation, have you ever thought what it would be like to go 6 months without watching a movie or a series, a drama, or anything? You ever thought about a fast, a conceptual fast of watching this stuff and how it might affect your life if you did not watch any drama? Because
Man,
for thousands of years, humans did not watch drama like every single day and revolve their life around it and have clubs around, you know. So actually, I'm thinking about doing that. I'm
Man,
just
there was
very off.
there was a time in the late '80s and early '90s where the only thing I watched on TV, and I didn't go to too many movies. The only thing I watched was sports and news, and not any drama. I mean, for instance, I never, to this day, have ever seen an episode of Dallas. Okay.
Me either.
Oh.
Yeah,
Um,
me neither.
I never watched Seinfeld. You know,
Caught a
just,
few, but
I
Yeah,
didn't
wasn't-
either.
you know, there, you know, if it wasn't news or sports, I wasn't watching it. So
I'll tell you what I did,
I called
Mahoney.
that-
I wanted to watch Johnny Carson. And
Right.
then when it got splintered and it was, you know, Jimmy Kimmel and
yeah,
David Letterman and all those people, it didn't mean as much anymore. And I didn't
right,
really
I
care.
agree.
But I used to stay up after the 10 o'clock news and see who was going to be on Carson. And if it was
Right.
somebody that looked entertaining, I'd stay up till midnight or 11:30 when it came on. But that was it.
Well,
Not much.
during election season, I used to pay a lot of attention to where what Carson was talking about, just because he was a pretty good gauge of what the American people were thinking about. I mean, I looked at his monologues through that prism only for a while, but
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
Terry said that's how he found out about Clockwork Orange Malcolm McDowell was on Johnny Carson. So
I'm sure it would have come across my radar some other way, but yeah.
Well, you're starting to say, Jeff, I kind of stepped on you.
I was going to say my drama fast was called med school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. At least for me, when I was younger, I didn't watch nearly what I'm watching now. Not even close. I did
Too
movies
busy.
all the time. Yeah, I was just doing other things. And I did for 1 week, relatively recently, I did stay away from TV altogether. And I found myself to be much more productive on so many levels. But that lasted a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
enough of
true.
this.
And you know, the computers have exacerbated the whole thing too. I mean,
Yeah.
'cause, you know, you can just go.
Yeah, are you going to not scroll on a computer for 6
Yeah,
months?
exactly. I mean, that would really be, I mean, Facebook Watch, man, that's my addiction. I have to force myself to stop. But
Yeah.
I'm considering it, you know, it's like just to see what it would be like. I mean, my fast was art school, you know, undergraduate, graduate school. I'm busy. I owned one television in my entire life, and that was to watch Johnny Carson before I went to bed during art school. I mean, graduate school, actually. A little, you know, 12-inch diagonal or whatever, small television. The only television I've ever owned.
Wow.
Except for the one I use for my computer monitor, which is in storage right now. So yeah, just lot of propaganda coming through that tube. A lot of mainstream
yeah.
mind fuck coming through that tube. You know, the people who are sucked into Fox News and you
Yeah.
know, no critical thinking and take everything that's said to them as the truth. And so,
And this past
anyways.
weekend, our 300th mass shooting so far this year.
Yeah.
I know.
This year,
Yes.
This year.
in 5 months,
Yep.
6. Yeah. It's unbelievable. It is just unbelievable. And we don't do anything about it.
Is
I
that 3 or
kept
more?
thinking about the mass shootings when I was watching
think it's
the
4.
violence
I think
that we saw.
4.
You think it's 400?
No,
No.
No,
I-
4
I- I
Four
people.
or more
Oh,
death.
4 or more, yeah.
Yeah, yes, you're right. It's 4 or more. But then there's people like there, we just had a shooting here in Florida, of course, and one person died, but there's like 30 people are injured and are in the hospital. You know, they don't call it a mass shooting, but what else do you call it?
we had
Yeah.
one here in Kansas City. 1 died and 9 were hit over the weekend over in St. Louis in a downtown office building that they had got into for some party. There were 1 killed and 19 wounded in the heart of downtown St. Louis.
Unreal.
Happens
And,
all the time.
In Washington at the Gorge Amphitheater, 2 people died, but then I think 9 or 11, something like that,
Right.
were shot in a campground.
Well,
Next to
you
the
know,
amphitheater.
here you don't have to go through anybody can get a gun. I mean,
Well, there
this
is.
is what I think of. I don't know about you guys, but didn't you guys go to bars and stuff when you were younger? Can
Oh,
you
no.
imagine being?
We didn't come home from them.
Yeah, that's what. But
Yeah,
can you
but
imagine being
I'm in a bar right
bars?
now. No.
Imagine being in bars and some of the people are packing. I mean, really, it just
When I
the
was in
idea
Mississippi,
of
and
it.
now this was late 70s, I was at a bar in Mississippi across from the state capitol where a lot of people hung out. And I was covered the legislature there and stuff. And this lady sat down and a gun fell out of her purse, a pearl handled 22 that was like a clip, fell out of her purse. And she goes, "Oh, excuse me, but everybody in Mississippi had a gun."
Bless your heart.
Yeah, bless your heart. Yeah.
Hey, Bill's got to go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So with all the holidays, when do we meet again?
Next week.
Next week.
Next
Damn
week
it.
is the 26th, right?
Oh, and then I get to pick one that you got 2 weeks to watch.
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
Nice. Okay.
Well, I
Pick
won't
a
be
long
here. I won't
Pick a
be.
long-
I'll be traveling next Monday, so I won't be at the meeting.
Have a safe flight tomorrow.
And I will be in
And
Kansas
if you
City.
don't-
Yeah, pull it in
See you
just
Saturday.
before midnight tomorrow night.
I'll see you Saturday night. I'll see Mahoney Saturday morning. I'll see Bill Saturday afternoon if all the cards play out.
Sounds good.
Well,
All
Bill's
right.
coming.
Good.
You're coming to the party, aren't you, Bill?
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see you Saturday night too.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.
Have a good